Alright, type G2564B1 traction generator maintenance data model. Traction, rotation phase for computer in counterclockwise. Classification 10 pole, commuting pole, shunt 1, DC generator resistant 25 degrees Celsius. Shunt field 1.73 ohms. Commuting field 0.00141 ohms. Starting field was 0.00157 ohms. Brush data 50 to 60 ounces. Size 3/4 inch by 1/4 inch by 2 1/4 inch by long. Nominal air gap exciting field 145 thousandths of an inch. Commuting field 340 thousandths of an inch. Commuter side mica 45 thousandths of an inch. Grooving depth 5/64 of an inch. Communicator new diameter 23 3/4 of an inch. Minimum permissible 23 inches. Bearing grease capacity 44 ounces. Initial fill surface filling every 60,000 miles 33 ounces. Weighted traction generator, complete unit unassembled 11,500 pounds. Generator only 10,200 pounds. Armature with fan 5,080 pounds. Photographs show the commuter and fan coupling and generator amplitudes. Exciter GY20 pulley end. In the illustrations, you'd have outline GY20. Connection diagram, longitudinal diagram, characteristics of the curve bearing, assembly pullers, bearing pulley, crankshaft, deflection measurement, correct stone fit. Alright, function. The traction generator chamber, the mechanical power to the level of the diesel engine and the electrical power, neither the drive of the traction motor with which connect the stroke of the electrical power, such as the storage batteries acting with the starting of the motor with the cranking of the diesel engine. Script of the main generator, 10-volt direct current with the communicator pole separately excited with the shunt generator, the armature with the directly coupled with the diesel engine crankshaft. The set of the generator diesel engine coupling may be obtained by removing inspection plate sides generator adapter for joining crankcase cover the generator form and attached with the generator adapter 12 with bolts entering the 4-bolt flanges. Crankshaft alignment can be made with the shimmy between the top main mounting flanges and the generator adapter. Frame head carriers enclosed with a cylindrical roller bearing which support the commuter end of the armature fan of the armature with the support of the rear main bearing with the engine through with the coupling with the diesel engine crankshaft. Sufficient clearance is provided and then the gearing generator permit horizontal movement and play with the crankshaft and thrust is taken by the engine bearing the end of the armature carrier of the ventilation van, which draws the air through the longitudinal duct, the armature core along with the surface of the armature between the field coils. Communicator end shaft with extension mount with the multiple groove with the pulley with the drive of the amplitude side with the auxiliary generator, one traction motor, blower V belts. Operation. Main generator is directly coupled with the diesel engine. It is driven in the counterclockwise direction facing the communicator in the main generator field with the amplitude exciter with the drill with the control circle with the governor of the power output with the traction generator. Starting wires built with exciting fields over the main generator. The main generation for the motor with the crank, the diesel engine power supply for the storage of batteries. Inspection for the inspection schedule, lubrication, C lubrication chart. Remove the generator of the locomotive C plate 118620 to remove the main generator, remove the hatch cover of the roof of the locomotive as well with the interfering with the ductwork of the piping, the cables, etc. Overhead cranes for the to be used. Procedures valve to disconnect the dynamic braking grids with air ducts and work with the remove the hatch cover of the roof of the locomotive, the remove the generator ventilating ductwork, all interfering piping and cables, etc. Disconnect the electrical cables from the generator, remove the excess of the cover sides of the generator adapter. 5. Remove protector covers from V belts and plane. Pulleys. 6. Cut the lock wire. Remove the 12 crankshaft coupling flange of the cap screws. 7 and 12 coupling bushings. 8. With the overhead crane, apply the slight lift with just enough to take the weight of the generator off the mounting bolts, not too much. Move 12 generator mounting bolts and lock. Washer pry jack generator away from the engine. Slide carefully with the crankshaft flange pulled outside of the fit with the armature of the drop should be supported with the fan for the bottom of the generator frame completely. Free to lift of the generator clear of the locomotive. Remove the shim with the generator adapter mounting bolts all together, but do not become separated or lost. Cleaning, inspection, testing after the traction generator has been removed from the locomotive blob with the armature winding with a clean dry compressed air. Inspect condition, brushing bearings, communicator windings, and string band. Our shows auxiliary generator, amplitude exciters, and the pulley. V belts from head cover traction generator connection terminals. Support amplitude exciter lifting bolt. Support auxiliary generator frame head covers. Mounting bracket auxiliary generator turnbuckle. Mounting bracket amplitude exciter with the turnbuckle. Lubricating fitting shaft pulley with the mount. Bolt holding brush holder. Grease drain. Communicator riser frame head. GAA, GEACC, GSS. GSJK, negative bus ring terminal, mounting flanges. And that's the type DC type communicator end. Shows 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 11. Then around counterclockwise. Longitudinal section of generator. Fan bolt, fan, magnet frame, field coils, frame bolt, all armature winding, accelerator, 7 equalizer, 8 frame head cover, 9 brush holder, stud assembly, 11 10 communicator, 11 frame head, 12 grease filler pipe, 13 brush holding bus rings, 14 bus ring bolts, 15 brush holder bolt, 16 bearing cap bolt, 17 pulley, 18 clamp plate, 19 clamp plate bolt, 20 sleeve, 21 bearing cap outer, 22 flinger, 23 bearing race outer, 24 bearing race inner, 25 bearing, 26 flinger, 27 spacing collar, and 28 shaft. And it shows the picture of 1 assembly bearing puller, 2 assembly pulley puller, 3 stud, 4 clamp plate, 5 next nut hex 5/8, 11 threads, stud, and 6, 7 the clamp plate, puller bearing pulley. Alright, a mega ammeter test can be used to check for the insulation resist of the armature of the winding to determine the overall condition of the machine. Check for the insulation resist of the armature. Lift all of the brushes before and playing with a mega ammeter to check for the insulation resistance should not be read less than 1 mega ohm. Remove traction generator armature. Remove the generator from locomotive. Remove the amplitude start with the AM806 with the auxiliary generator GY20. See amplitude remove with the locomotive with the amplitude exciter. Take out the pulley clamping plate with the 19. Remove the clamping plate 18. Move V-belt pulley 17. Use the puller C plate 1187 to 56. Move frame head cover 8. Disassembly outer bearing cap 21. Disassemble the adapter. Hold the armature in place. 7. Place the generator shaft with the vertical position. Be stirring level the support with supply of the under the coupling face for the block up with the frame 7-3. 8. Lift the brush hold with the 9. The wrap the communicator 10 with a heavy paper to prevent injury for removing the frame 9. Remove the plate. Remove the bolt. Disassemble the adapter 10. Remove the bolts 14. Connects between the bus ring 13. Communicator field circle within. Remove the frame hole bolt 5. Assemble the frame head 11. The brush holders 9. Can be removed with the vertical armature of the frame head will slide off the outer bearing range 23. But the care must be taken to lift the frame head with the nearest vertically as possible so that it will not bind the outer race. 12. Lift the frame 3 from the armature. 13. Bearing 25. Flinger 22. Sleeve 20. Gasket 29. Inner bearing 26. Can be removed with a puller. See the 11. 14. Armature for the horizontal position. Remove the fan bolts 1 and fan 2. Moving field coils. With the field coils are to be removed, the provision should be made to keep each full and coil accompanying the shim together. The unreasonably that they should be replaced with the original position. After the coils are assembled, the care should be taken with the cables are properly connected. The contact surface should be clean when the bolts are drawn tightly. Remove the main generator field coil without removing the generator from the locomotive. Remove and varnish covered and necessary to regenerate the EX if the field coil with disconnect the sufficient number of leave to permit the removal of the coil. Place heavy paper the pressing board over the armature to prevent the damage of armature coil, which is coil is being removed. Place heavy paper the press board over the communicator plate. Move the pull piece of the bolt 6. Slide the coil out over the frame, opening the frame head. Be careful not to damage brush over the communicator. To remove the communicating pole over the coil, existing pole and coil must be removed. Remove one of the lower existing coils. It will be necessary to remove 1 more adjacent coils. If the traction generator has been removed from the locomotive, the field coils can be removed through the back of the fan end of the frame after the removing the fan. To do with the C plate 811 to 8619. Black armature 1 black armature. You have the 1/8 of an inch shims between the existing pole with the armature core. These may be inserted with the communicator in. Remove the black wire with the fan bolts. Remove the fan bolts. Remove the fan. Disconnect lead from the coil. 6. Remove the pole piece from the pole piece for the taken out. 7. Then slide the coil out of the fan and frame and reserve the precaution to protect with the armature of the communicator. When the coil is assembled, exciter coils should be heated internally with approximately 35 degrees or 95 degrees Fahrenheit because of the pole piece of the bolts are tightened with this. As eliminate air gap between the frame and the pole with the assembly with the top fields. Coils complete fill, countersink of all around pole piece bolts. And then it shows the communicator, pole piece bolt, frame head cover locking wire, fan bolt, fan, exciter field, pole piece, and this is the G2 generator DC generation type, oblique right side view, fan end to the right. With the GE837 compound, repairs. Armature should be closely inspected with the condition of the band wedges and insulation generally assembled with the communicator. Armature band core wedges should be tight when the true curve slider of the bends should be intact, but the slider had been thrown off the cuffs should be determined and corrected with the band with the replete with the tightened banding. With the coil insulation should be cleaned with free with the blister flakes with the cracked insulation varnish surface. In addition, insulating varnish over the armature with the treatment necessary for the banding loose for the following that should be observed: clean air holes with the core with the clean creepage surface at the back of the razor for the creepage surface for the armature head by reaching in front of the fan through spoke with the spider, remove the band with the banding base for the necessary clean all surfaces with a clothes dip with carbon tetrachloride equivalent blowout with a dry compressor with the protect with the winding with the air blast the heat the armature temperature to 140 to 150 degrees Celsius or 284 degrees Fahrenheit, 302 degrees Fahrenheit. Total end of the plate with all applied narrow temperature bands at each of the winding U fiber base protect bindings. Dip hot the 110 to 120 degrees Celsius or 230 degrees to 248 degrees Fahrenheit. Glypol 2480 varnish, Picasso refers to section preparation varnish on the traction motor. Hold armature varnish for 5 to 10 minutes. Armature should be held on a swivel hook with the communicator end with the submerged of the varnish for the communicator rise thoroughly with the drain except for the accumulation varnish spinning. White varnish in the shaft with the use of the cloth stroked with the tool. Blake with the 16 hours oven temperature 140 degrees or 150 degrees Celsius or 284 degrees Fahrenheit, 302 degrees Fahrenheit. Measures insulation resistance for the armature itself, but the armature should be baked until the insulation resistance is at least 1 mega ohm. 9. Replace temperature band with a permanent binding. 10. Repeat 4, 5, and 6. Cool armature with approximately 50 degrees Celsius, 122 degrees Fahrenheit. Dip glypol number 1201. Red enamel to provide outside finish because of the preparation varnish. It's on the traction motor. Thoroughly drain excess enamel. Remove all the enamel from the shaft. Bake 16 hours over the temperature at home, 40 degrees Celsius, 284 degrees Fahrenheit. Armature with a condition and banding is not replaced with above the varnish treatment. It should not be necessary for the trip glaze for the armature. Steps 1 and 3 above the bake armature for 6 hours, 140 to 150 degrees Fahrenheit, 284 degrees Fahrenheit, 302 degrees Fahrenheit. Remove the moisture. Cool approximately 50 degrees Celsius, 122 degrees Fahrenheit, and proceed with the treatment as specified in level 11 steps 11, 12, and 13. Be sure insulation resistant the mega ohm meter resistance less than 1 mega ohm make armature until the insulation resistance comes within the limits. Rewinding armature is necessary until the nearest GE surface shop. Communicators should be present with a smooth surface free of the pitting if it has become pitted with the damage. If in any case, with the stoning turning will be necessary. Stoning C-plate A118678. The stone proper curve of the fit with the communicator surface span with the approximately 30 degrees around the communicator should be used to see the plate 118678. With extreme care must be taken with the stoning process, taking with the plate to prevent the copper dust from settling and the windings blow out with the armature of the drive compressor frequently. After stoning, check with the communicator surface concentrically. The eccentric gauge will mount with the apparatus frame to check the concentric apparatus mount with the outer bearings. Wipe dirt grease the string band with the brake string with the string band is tight with the heads a smooth surface with the finish of the start and flank. Chips and lightly blow out with the dry compressor air with a coat with glypol 1201. Red enamel should be applied with the permanent to dry. Turn the communicator badly worn or burn. Remove the armature from the machine. Turn the communicator into the lathe. Remove the only of the copper. Alright, and then we'll go through shift of the stone 30 degrees, proper curvature for the fit of the communicator stone, correct stone fit, and then back to reading. To give the uniform surface to after the slab with the mica between the segments of the should be recut and the curvature of the surface polished with a clean. Whenever possible, the turn the communicator and by supporting armature with its own bearings, the armature should be held with the left centers to be sure that these centers are true with respect with the bearing seats. Before turning the communicator, make suitable covering to keep the ship within depth of the working, and the armature of the covering can be best made as follows. Strip the cloth winding enough to cover the communicator right long enough to encircle the communicator with the cloth around the communicator binding the inside of the edge of the cord is closed to the end. Connection is probable to turn the cloth over of the cord and bind with another cord to the outside of the armature cover of the band. Make sure the turning post is so that the ways of the prepare hole with the communicator end with the air fastened end of the brace securely. Side cutting tool, which is the point ground about 1/16 of an inch radius. Cutting side with the point should be given more rake. Custom for working iron steel with the tool should be sharp enough to make with the clean and smooth cuts without dragging copper over the mica. While turning the communicator, it should be running with the peripheral to be at approximately 300 feet per minute, which is above the fastest end of the tool will cut without burning it. while the file round off the ends of the communicator bar with at least one significant the radius, which will the communicator still lay with the uncutting the mica. A communicator has been turned on the side of the mica to correct with the FC with the data page. Special solves are available for the purpose of care may not be taken with the outcut slots too wide. Remove the sharp edge of the communicator bar with a hand scraper with a knife. Do not bevel the edge of the segment. Clean out the slots to remove all the mica chips and fins. Ensure no copper chips that remain in the slot. Satisfactory tool for operation can be made with a piece of worn cut hacksaw blade. After mica has been undercut, slides are cleaned out, and communicator is ready for the sanding and final polishing. Our brush holders maintaining 3/32 inches to 1/8 of an inch clearance between the bottom of the brush holder of the communicator with adjusting brush result place cardboard between the communicator and brush holder. Adjust the space and loosen on the cap screw which cover the mic legs. Stand stud with the frame head with the adjust the support with the up and down obtain with the correct clearance. Relieve of the bolt with the slide of the air and over the brush ring with attempting to move the brush holder support tighten after setting the brush holder. Examine the brush holder for the damage cut with the flash over the applying with the brush of the brushes most slightly freely when the holder work with the brushes up and down several times to leave the carbon dust over the form material understand the cause of binding down snap of the spring within the chip of the brush. Leave the brush holder, remove the complete support assembly with the brush holder first. Remove the brush, remove the bolt from the secure with the brush ring terminal on the brush holder support. Remove the cap screw from the frame head of the hole for the mic clicks, insulation stud on the end of the support. Lift out for the complete assembly. Remove the cardboard insulation brush holder. Assembly reverse operation position support with the face for the brush holder 3/32 of an inch to 1/8 of an inch from the communicator end with the key with the Milac stud with engaged in the slot with the frame head assembled with the cap screw with the lock washer drive securely. Assemble the slot of brush ring terminal bolt tightly with the support terminal. Install brushes and brush holders. Brush of the replaced brushes which have been chipped worn excessively with the same grade with the brush for the GE recommended substitute with the necessary only with the partial replacement is made with the variety of the brush. The same machine may affect with the operation of the generator. Install a new brush. Return the tension of the spring and lift the brush lever. With the fingers and drop of the brush and place with the brush hole with the carbon block brush level with the stiff lifted with the screw of the brush pigtail under the terminal screw. Brush hole body carbon must be taken with the range of the pigtail shunts so the air clear with the armature rides or armature wine on the brush holder body. Sanding and fitting brushes when necessary. When new brushes are installed within them to the communicator with the sand with the papering with only a few brushes being fitted within the of the piece of sandpaper the end of the brush and draw with the direction rotations being carefully with the sandpaper is tightly against the communicator. Lift with the brushes, moving the sandpaper back, hold the sandpaper in place so that it will rotate with the communicator. All right. Seating brush when more than 1/3 of the set of the new brushes installed with the generator set with the sheet of the brush is smooth running fit with the soft white with the brush seater of the cat numbered 106X98. Run the engine idle speed in the hole with the seater lightly again with the communicator moving them back and forth to cover the entire brush surface. The first particle with the sheet of the carried around with the communicator where the new brush with the smooth fit when the brushes have been fitted blow out with the dust with the dry compressed air. So spring balance brush, strip of paper, figure 1, communicator brush, rotation armatures, cut the sandpaper to shape, pull the sandpaper this way, brush and rotation of the armature, brush holder, sandpaper, rotation, sand brushes, brush holder, brush seater, communicator brush holders. Alright, bearings. Cleaning is the condition indicated by the bearing assembly should be disassembled through the cleaning of the kerosene similar solvent to remove the accumulation of old hardened grease from the bearings and housing of the grease passage. Inspection C plate 118674. After the bearing has been cleaned, rotate slowly, feel with the roughness of the rollers with the braces, visually inspect with the rollers and razors, sign with the pitting, galling, worn spot, loose rib with the loose warning, cages, inspect with the discolorization roll in the bearing, curates with the evidence of the overheating, examine the bearing fit, frame head with excessive wear bearing condition, questionable, the new bearing should be installed, the stuff to be taken and requestable bearing recondition scrape, worn frame heads corrected. After bearings have been cleaned, so they should be further washed from little mineral lubrication oil, SAE 10 grade heated to 90 degrees Celsius or 194 degrees Fahrenheit to prevent the corrosion of highly polished surface. Repacking the bearing compartment is clean and dry. Repack with the fresh grease with the dash sheet bearing grease capacity. Reassemble the some of the grease should be packed for the bearing itself. Reassemble the armature and the bearings. C plates 118686 and 118674. In general, reassemble the procedure. Reverse assembly procedure previously outlined. Care should be taken in assembling bearing parts preventing scoring with an engaging surface type with a fitting parts. Assembly fan 2 with fan bolts, 1 lock bolts, wire with lock bolts with wire. Set armature for the shaft with the vertical position. Take care of the level of solid support. Protect the communicator with a heavy paper. Symbol inner bearing cap 26 with a gasket. 29 inner flinger. 22 shaft. 28 heat flinger. 22 150 degrees Celsius. 302 degrees Fahrenheit for assembling of the shaft. After check bearing fit, see that it's clean free of the upset metal with the heat inner bearing 24 degrees, 110 degrees Celsius or 330 degrees Fahrenheit. Hold against the flinger 22 until it's cooled tightly. Fit on the shaft of 28, see frame 3 over the armature block frame to correct the height. Some of the outer bearings raised 23, frame head 11, some of the frame head 11 over the armature frame, and some of the frame head bolts 5. Frame and frame head are marked with a factory correct for the position of frame head. These marks may be bought in the alignment before tightening frame bolts. Symbol outer flinger 22, sleeve the bolt, sleeve 20, the outer bearing cap 21. Connect lead of the bus ring at 13 field circle with the reassemble the brush holders 9 and brushes. Heat to 25 degrees Celsius or 77 degrees Fahrenheit. Rise and pulley place pulley with 17 on the shaft. Assemble the clamping plate 18, clamping plate bolts 19. Replace frame head covers 8. Inspection after repairs. After the repairs have been made, carefully check that it should be made with no foreign matter remains in the machine, that there is no loose brush for the other obstruct for the communicator. Check for the connection of the connection diagram. See that all the bolts are drawn tightly and locked. Testing after repairs. Generators are repaired after running in surface all of the parts. Thoroughly clean. Measure insulation resistance with a mega ohm meter. Insulation resistance measure not less than 1 mega ohm. Apply the following high potential tests of the windings. Apply 2,000 volts to the main generator armature communicator field with the starting field, but also to the exciter differential field. Apply 1100 volts to the main generator shunt field. Installation generator. Use the following procedure: installation new generator, examine engine, installation old machine, reapply same shims, check with the counterweight position, respect with the number 1 engine crank. Follow the paragraphs 1, 2, 4, 6, 10, 12, and 16. Inspect all the brushing holes, remove the dirt and chips any of the burrs at the ends. 2, fitting a couple bushings to hold the flange of the crankshaft with assembly, and also the hole of the armature spire coupling. And then it shows the bearing cap, the bolt sleeve of the bearing cap, flinger, the bearing race outer and inner, bearing cap and inner, space collar, shaft gasket, and bearing assembly GT564B. Alright, the flange hole within a ream, the jig with the silver, the alignment should be correct with the bushings or too large. They may be corrected carefully with the emery clamp with the lift, the tap fit with the required end of the bushing around with the facility of the engagement of the holes and assembly. Install the stuff with the floor pad with the face of the raised generator adapter. Remove the cardboard strip with the space between the generator air gap. The armature will fill, then support with the fan, which normally have the small clearance and the board with the generator frame on a new machine. Check with the board generator adapt with the pilot for a fit with the generator frame. Generator plot thick. There should be check for the current generator resting on skid. Therefore, diametrical clearance between the two parts should be 0 to 6,000 of an inch. The more clearance of the found with exists, the prepared 3 shim of the board with the generator adapt with the central eyes of the generator into the fit with the shim may be bent to the U form, fit around the rim, leaving the tang to hold the assembly. The fitting also should be played with the bottom end of the horizontal center line at each side. Attach sliding slings or lifting with the generator. Important to have the generator have exactly level, even if some of the stuff will enter the hole with the floor pad with the jamming of the bending. While all mounting parts for the clean with the chip with the dirt, inspect to eliminate any of the burrs where they may interfere with the proper assembly. Rotate with the engine crankshaft until the holes in the flange line up upon the mating hole. The armature spire with the coupling flange. And generator has one more counterweights to show the curve with the fan. Care must be taken to rotate the shaft until the relation between the two with the engine number 1 crankshaft with the counterweights, and the same with the previously with the records of the position. Any of the cuts counterweights can be obtained from the engineering department. Unchanging generator of the engine counterweight position must remain the same with the respective number 1 engine crank. Remove the generator into the engagement with the engine generator adapter with the crankshaft and armature spire. For the first half of the engage the shorter distance. The generator stator frame will start with the engine bore with the generator adapter. Do not pull it. Fill with the engagement with the coupling bushings are partially installed. Cover the coupling bushing light with the white lead and install with the bushing with the hole with the crankshaft flange. Engage the end of the hole with the armature spire with the coupling flange. Install with all the coupling bushing bolts tighten and secure with the white lead with the outer threads. On new generator, 2 bolting flanges on each side of the generator below the horizontal sun line, provided 3/32 trim with the tack weld. Then place bolt flanges near the top of the must be. Also, shim of the must be. The shim of the be less than 3/32 thickness. The end of the generator will be tilted slightly in order to correct shaft deflection. Shim of 60,000 of an inch. Thickness should be approximately correct after installation with the shim, the tighten up the bolts of which secure the generator from the frame adapter. And one crank web deflection gauge of the dial, reading type of the place of the gauge between the two counterweight of the engine engine crankshaft of the nearest generator of the gauge should be parallel to the axis of the shaft point directly opposite with a crank pin 180 degree with the crank pin proceed as following. See plate A 1186-77. Alright, cranking near the bottom center of the gauge may not quite touch the connection rod on the left bank of the crank 90 degrees for the bottom center. Crank at the top center of the crank 90 degrees from the top center. Crank near bottom center of the gauge is not quite touching the connecting rod of the right bank. Indicator must be reset after taking the first reading. The total difference between the two reading of the 90 degrees position between the reading of the top center and the nearest bottom center should not exceed 300ths of an inch of the difference. Excessive 300ths of an inch correction must be changing shims. 14. After checking and correcting crankshaft deflection wire coupling bolt together then repairs. 15. Make electrical connections. Check the direction of rotation with the motor being correct. Complete installation. Note, radial run out with the crankshaft register should not exceed 2,000 of an inch. Total indicator reading accessorial axle run out with the crankshaft flange face should not exceed 200ths of an inch. 2,000 of an inch. Total indicator reading radial amount of the register fit with the adapter generator frame should not exceed 4,000 inch. Total indicator reading. Troubleshooting. Communicator heating except the temperature of the communicator is generally caused by following, and this shows a show the crankshaft deflection measurement of the pin, first and third and fifth crankshaft. Or 1. Heavy overload, prolonged period. 2. Sparking with the brushes. 3. Improper brush pressure. Poor condition of the armor communicator. Black and rough surface. Increase with the brush friction. Contact drop. Both of which cause increased temperature. Contact heating. Bolt contacts may heat with the contact strip not clean. Smooth with the bolts together with sufficient pressure so that the contact with the connecting strips are tight. Poor communication sparking with the brush may do with any of the following cause, except the overload brush is not fitted with the strip of the communicator brush may not have proper pressure not same at all. The brushes bind with in the hole the brushes may have the reach of the limit where brushes may burned on the end of the communicator may the dirty oil roof rough and worn out. Communicator may be loose with the broken project above the others. High mica communicator and brush path. Ground and short circuit armature cold. Loose connection between armature load and the communicator bar. Flat spot with the communicator out of true. Armature badly out of balance. Deflected with the communicating field coil. The wrongly polarity communicator field coil. Armature heating may result from any of the following causing overloading, inadequate ventilation, partial short circuit of the two coils. Heating two coils affect the short circuit grounds with the armature winding with the communicator, rough communicator, unsighted communicator rises. General heating of the armature may be caused by unequal air gap, reverse field coil, short circuit ground field coil. Field coils, overheating field coils may result in the following cause of the partial short circuit with one or more coils in proper connection. Check with the connection of the field coils with the connection diagram supplied with each of the generator. Check with the reverse field coil exciting the fields with the swim source. Battery, etc. Holding two iron rods again with the adjacent pole tips over the way around with the free end of the rods with should be attracted to each other. Faulty coil may be detected with the exciting field of the swim source with the taking the voltage drop of the graph each of the coil for separately variation over the 10% of the drop. The indication faulty coil should be noted the main generator has more than one winding of each coil with the care should be taken easy to see with the correct terminals or using the solve of the cable connection drawing plate 8 118712. And it shows the communicator end of the generator connection diagram for the GT564B. Then it shows you the side generator, the generator GT564 auxiliary generator JY20 C exciter AM806B. An outline. And then the last page is the GT564 railway generator characteristics with the AM806 exciter used at 1500 horsepower, 1000 RPM diesel engine based on tests. Shows per excitation 1500 horsepower efficient, including exciter amperage loads. And this was a reading of the Type G GT564B1 traction generator.